Good evening, everyone. So a recent study shows that voters have a lower risk of dying compared to non-voters. This is especially true of Democrats in 2020, since many were already dead. I added to the conspiracy. James Carville says Donald Trump can't be the Antichrist because he's too dumb. Meanwhile, Carville thinks he's Jesus because everyone who sees his face says, Jesus, what happened? Earlier today, King Charles and Queen Camilla paid a visit to New York City. To make them feel at home, none of us flossed. Yeah, the White House held a state dinner for the King and Queen of England, and I actually attended, though they stuck me at the kids' table. Yeah, I took Prince Andrew's seat. Yeah, huh?
There goes your knighthood.
Yeah. Among those in attendance were Fox News personalities Brett Baer, Maria Bartiromo, Laura Ingraham, and Jesse Waters. But what of Brian Kilmeade? Well, he also had dinner with royalty. According to the Daily Mail, President Trump and King Charles are very distant cousins. Big deal. Call me when you guys get engaged, said one woman. Roger Sweet, the toy designer who created He-Man, has passed away at the age of 91. I know, but thankfully his legacy will live on through one woman's haircut.
Damn. I had all the He-Man toys.
Taylor Swift has filed to trademark her voice and likeness in order to protect against AI misuse. She also wanted to trademark her ass, but the common household item ironing board beat her to it. Yeah. You know what we do? We try to find a weird picture and work backwards. And finally, New York City has opened its first ever table games casino. And already one man is asking people to blow on his dice. Yeah. All right. So on Tuesday, the feds raided 22 businesses in Minnesota as part of the investigation into the multi-billion-dollar fraud scam. Many of the targets were part of the Somali immigrant community, including the infamous Quality Leering Center, which to me always sounded like a euphemism for strip club. That business alone received $2 million in taxpayer money last year. But when Nick Shirley rolled up to investigate, it was empty as a tip jar when a Starbucks barista doesn't compliment my muscles. Wow. Here's what Tim Walz tweeted shortly after the raids. Quote, "You commit fraud in Minnesota, you're going to get caught." And that's exactly what we saw today. We catch criminals when state and Fed agencies share information. Joint investigations work, and securing justice depends on it. Wait, so who is we? How did he become part of this? He acts like he's leading the parade against corruption when he presided over it. It's like P. Diddy saying, I helped catch a lot of hookers. Walz is the same creep who previously smeared the investigations as white supremacy.
This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white.
You know, it's hard for a racist like Tim to understand this, but white people commit fraud too. For instance, Dana Perino sells counterfeit Viagra. But now he takes credit for the crackdown. But Kash Patel was quick to hit back, writing, "Come again? This FBI and DOJ with our DHS partners drafted, executed every search warrant today. But go ahead and take credit for our work while we smoke out the fraud plaguing Minnesota under your governorship. Still, I know, huh? Sick burn. But it raises the question, why does Walz think that this would work? Maybe because so many fraudsters in his state drive Bentleys. But also, he is used to the system where oversight is nil. He governs a one-party state that wins by importing third-world voters that are just happy they're no longer having goats for breakfast. And that's especially true for Dems, who are used to looking the other way. After all, they had to share a locker room with Jerry Nadler. But suddenly there's a new sheriff in town, and they forgot to tell Walz. He's like a guy who never did his job, slept under his desk, drank during lunch, hit on the secretaries, stole from the expense account, and then he realizes they had security cameras the whole time. Which is one reason why I had my security cameras removed. But this is what happens when ideology replaces oversight. When you're afraid of being called racist, you stop looking altogether. Fraud becomes a lot easier when no one's paying attention, and under his watch, nobody was. They just wrote the checks without asking any questions. Like Trace Gallagher when a Mexican woman shows up with another baby that looks like him. Why Mexican? Walz has done this before by overstating his military career. Now he's just extending stolen valor to new places. Who knows, maybe he wants a medal for stopping the fraud so he can put it next to the one he got for eating pizza in Italy during Operation Enduring Freedom. He also blames the fraud on his state being too generous. Sorry, dude, it's not generous when you're giving away other people's money. It didn't come from his bank account, which is why he didn't care. And now he says the buck stops with me.
I've said the buck stops with me. And as I know, some of you will take that as an open invitation to play politics with every incident of fraud that takes place here in Minnesota, even though I have to tell you, the statistics show it's happening in red states more than here, but so be it.
If this guy was more full of crap, he'd be a sewage treatment plant. The buck stops with me. No, Timmy, the buck didn't stop with you. It went straight out the door and over to Mogadishu. Guest. Her husband's ears have filed for disability. Co-host of Outnumbered, Emily Campagno. He's still using Osama bin Laden's MasterCard. Former SEAL Team 6 operator Rob O'Neill. Every time he goes to a Radiohead concert, people point to him during Creep. Host of Jim Norton Can't Save You, comedian Jim Norton. And it's not the San Andreas fault, it's his. Former NWA World Champion, host of Planet and Tired podcast, Tyrus. Emily, I don't know what's worse, that he's stupid or that Tim thinks we're stupid, that he's actually pretending that he was part of this raid. What say you?
It's worse that he's stupid because under his inept watch is how so many now billions of dollars have fled over to not just Somalia, but Somaliland. I mean, it's directly funding terrorism. This guy needs to be the other end of an indictment and not just a civil lawsuit for obviously blasting every type of fiduciary duty out of the planet. Look, he's the fraud. That's the thing. It's not just fraud in Minnesota. He is the fraud. And you can't reinvent yourself and all of a sudden recast yourself from defendant or denier to all of a sudden reformer and hero. It doesn't work like that. And you played earlier exactly what he said when the fraud was brought to light, by the way, over like 8 years after it was starting to metastasize. He said it was because of white supremacy. He said it was because we were scapegoating illegals. And I say we because we are the United States. It is our money. The government actually does represent us. It's the whole point of the DOJ. And for him to come out immediately under those explosive allegations of fraud and not say, wait, really? Here, let's have a meeting. Talk to me about what you found in my state. Instead, just, you're all racist? Why? Because you lost your voters? Because you want that money for terrorism, you sick individual? And then remember what he called I'm trying to clean up my language. And then remember what he called Nick Shirley, the young journalist, independent, who dared and braved death threats and assaults to actually bring us that news. He called him a white supremacist and a conspiracy theorist and a right-wing, nut job. So this person, when actually faced with the receipts, totally denied everything, turned the tables, called everyone racist, and now he's claiming victory for it. Exactly. It doesn't work like that, but I'm sick of the Dems platforming him. Yeah. I don't know why he's on every stage still. I don't know why he's doing
Well, he's a governor. It's like they got to listen to this fat piece of crap, You're
cleaning up your language, too. So
I am cleaning up my language.
Together.
You're my inspiration. Rob. You guys. I'm never going to get better if you clap. Rob, have you ever been to Mogadishu?
Yeah, we've been near there, and a lot of us on my former SEAL team, we wanted to deport Somalis before it was cool.
Yeah.
But we went over there, we had to deal with these skinny dirtbags and kill them one time. And I know it's times have changed, so I should, instead of a hostage rescue team, more of, I guess, it would be a daycare prevention team.
Yes.
That's what we're doing. Because we went over there, we smoked 3 of them, so do my math, that's 80 daycares, $1.3 billion we saved the state of Minnesota, basically. But yeah, we had to do that. It was on my birthday, a long weekend, Good Friday, April 10, 2009, and we went over there and met them for the first time, and we came back with warnings. Hey, if you let a bunch of them in, they might steal a bunch of your
Yeah. Well, not all of them are bad, but there are a lot of them in Minnesota that are have a different view of fraud than we do. What do you make of this raid in general?
Well, they're just pointing out the fraud, too. And you got to put yourself in their shoes. If you can go to a different country and take advantage of the system that they're being let do it. If you're raised in a place like Somalia, I would do the same thing.
Especially when you go from a hot place to a really cold place.
Well,
yeah, you got to find some joy somewhere.
I don't think African summer with 10,000 lakes in a Minnesota winter. It doesn't seem like the place. But it is a political move to get them there. And you're getting people like Ilhan Omar, who says World War XI because it's put in front of her. And that's a real congresswoman. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is very serious when you start taking people from places like that want to take advantage of the country, and they're doing it right now in front of us. And then you get Tim Walz up there that just he's part of the machine, and knows what happened. Then he tries to play both sides of the aisle or both sides of the field. So that's just that's sad.
Both sides of a lot of things, Jim. How fitting. Jim, this is an issue dear to your heart because you have been a victim of fraud many times, usually in Thailand.
Yes.
According to the dozens of police reports that are online.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get a girl home and she has a vagina. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I'm in Thailand. What's going on? I want my money back. Speak to your manager. But it is. I almost admire Tim Walz for the complete lack of the ability to do this. This is like the cuck taking credit for the orgasm his wife just had with the bull.
That is a great analogy.
Trust me, it's one we have to make sometimes, Greg. But he really is ripping off the work of a 23-year-old.
Yes.
Who went in there and did a great job. And as far as the agencies and I became aware of the fraud the same way I did from watching a YouTube video.
Right.
That's how they learned what was going on. And look, I'm glad the FBI is raiding, but the guy's just. Yeah. He's kind of a scumbag, and it's just kind of fun to see him getting dragged.
Yeah, it is true, Tyrus. What Jim said is that Walz probably learned about the fraud the same way we did, which was from Nick Shirley on YouTube.
I'm still stuck when he called the manager because his ladyboy Pete's sitting down.
Yeah.
Oh, man. He needs a longer clap for that one.
He actually did get a longer clap.
Yeah, that was... No, listen, he's sharp.
Yeah.
Very sharp. He's doing exactly what he's being told to do. Mm-hmm. He comes out publicly, embraces condemning it, and then when the judges, all the people that are convicted, get 3-month sentences or allowed to go back to Somalia with their money, he was doing his part. Yeah. So I think he's just the willing fool that will be like, hey, there's a camera, go say this, and he'll do it because that's what he's done, and he's been rewarded for it.
Yeah.
His entire political career is not because of his policies or his changes he's made, is because he's willing to be that guy.
Right. So it's kind of like Adam Schiff and even Eric Swalwell. They would have said anything.
Anything, because he didn't have the skill set to be there.
Yeah.
So he's going to say whatever, and if he gets caught up in it, so be it.
Yeah.
He's dispensable. He's trying to show them he's still of value.
Yeah.
So that's even more scarier.
Yeah.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube. And catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.